In the penthouse, at the very top of the glass building, the only sound is the rustling of pages in the man's hands. Seok-chul sits at a large dark wood desk. Papers lie in front of him. He reads them one by one, occasionally signing his name. His face is calm, attentive. Only one lamp is lit in the room, and its light falls on the desk, leaving the rest of the room in semi-darkness. Outside, it's long been dark. Only the city lights twinkle below like tiny stars. There's a phone next to his hand, a regular one, but very expensive. Very few people know this number. It's for important matters, for urgent calls, and suddenly the phone rings. Seok-chul looks up from his papers. He glances at the screen. An unfamiliar number. He frowns slightly. Who could it be? Maybe someone made a mistake? Or is this a new contact? He considers for a few seconds, then swipes his finger across the screen and brings the phone to his ear. Seok-chul, hello, but in response, he hears not an adult's voice, but a child's. It's clear, joyful, and a little hurried. Holly, Mom, you finally answered the phone. I figured it all out. Listen. Seok-chul is silent. He doesn't understand anything. Holly, I want a strawberry cake for my birthday. Like last time, remember? With pink roses. And more. I also really need a dollhouse. A really big one. With rooms and an elevator. And furniture inside. Do you understand, Mom? The girl speaks, barely breathing. Her voice is so full of hope and excitement that Seok-chul can't even find the words to interrupt her. He simply listens. Holly, Mom, can you hear me? Say something. Seok-chul opens his mouth. He wants to say, you've dialed the wrong number, but he doesn't have time. Holly, oh, okay. I know you're at work. Hooray, that means it'll happen. Thanks, Mommy. Love you. Can't wait to get home. And a click. Short beeps hung in the receiver. The silence in the office grows even louder. Seok-chul slowly lowers his phone onto the table. He sits motionless, staring out into the darkness beyond the window. His face lacks the usual cool concentration. Pure bewilderment is written there. He replays that strange conversation in his head again. The child's voice. The request for cake and a dollhouse. He's absolutely certain he's talking to his mother. He looks at the phone screen, where the unfamiliar number is still lit up. A common mistake. Someone's little daughter called the wrong number. He just needs to delete the number and forget about it. But he doesn't wash. He continues to sit and look out the window. Somewhere out there, in those twinkling lights, lives this little girl. She's waiting for her mother and believes her dream will come true. And her mother probably doesn't even know about this call. He puts the phone down on the table, but the feeling of that call, that explosion of childish joy, doesn't go away. It hangs in the silence of his office, like something alien, yet very much alive. 20 minutes pass. Seok-chul no longer looks at the papers. He sits in the same chair, pondering something. Then he makes a decision. It comes to him not as a feeling, but as a clear, precise command to himself. He has a rule. If someone asks him for something, even if it's a mistake, he fulfills it. That's how his world works. That's how his word works. He presses a button on the intercom. Seok-chul, Minho, come to me. A minute later, the office door opens silently. A man in a formal suit enters. It's his chief assistant, Minho. He stands at the desk, ready to receive his assignment. Seok-chul, I have one assignment. Not related to the main matter. Minho raises an eyebrow slightly, but remains silent. Seok-chul, I need to find and buy something. A baby gift. He takes his phone, finds the same number, and forwards it to Minho. Seok-chul, I got a call from this number today. I need to find out who it belongs to. Find the address. Keep it quiet. Minho nods. Minho, got it. What exactly do I need to buy? Seok-chul leans back in his chair, staring into space as if he can hear that voice again. Seok-chul, strawberry cake, the best you'll find, with pink roses. And a dollhouse, a big one, with rooms, and an elevator inside. Furniture, too, the best in town. Minho listens with a stony face, but a hint of surprise flickers in his eyes. He's not used to receiving such assignments. Seok-chul, all this needs to be delivered to the address you find. Carefully, leave it by the door. Today or tomorrow, but before the evening. The main thing is that no one sees or asks questions. Understood? Minho. Absolutely understandable, boss. I'll do everything. Seok-chul nods, signaling the end of the conversation. Min-ho turns and leaves the office. The door closes again. Seok-chul is left alone. He picks up the papers again, but doesn't read them. He thinks about how he's set a small mechanism in motion. He doesn't know who this girl and her mother are. He doesn't know what they'll think when they find the gifts. But his principle is law. And now this law says, there was a request. It must be fulfilled. He gets up and goes to the huge window. Somewhere below, his man is already beginning to act. And somewhere out there, in the city, a little girl named Holly goes to bed, confident that her mother will arrange everything. Carla pulls the key out of the office building door. It's been a long and hard day. She works as an administrator at a small company, and today was supposed to be payday. But when she walked into the accountant's office, she just shrugged. Accountant, Carla, I'm sorry. The transfer is delayed. Management promises it will be ready early next week. Just be patient. Holly's birthday. Now she's walking down the evening street. She's carrying a tattered bag. She doesn't go straight home. Her feet carry her along the familiar route, past a small shopping center. There, on the ground floor, is a toy store. She often looks into its window, displaying Holly. Carla stops in front of a large glass window. The light is on inside, and the display case glows like a magical world. Dolls in beautiful dresses stand there. Brightly colored cars lie on the floor, and stuffed animals hang on the walls. And right in the center, like a palace, stands a large dollhouse. It's pink and 3-story. Its facade opens up, revealing rooms: a living room with a tiny sofa, a kitchen with a stove, a bedroom with a crib, and a small elevator that you can pull on a rope. Holly stood here all evening yesterday, her nose pressed to the glass. She whispered, "Holly, Mom, look, we can put this doll in this room, and we can plant a flower on the balcony." Carla is looking at this house now. She knows the price tag. She saw it a week ago. The amount is prohibitive for her, especially now, when there is no salary. She sighs. It's deep and weary. The air leaves her lungs as if taking her last hopes with it. Carla, to herself quietly, "What should I give Holly? A cake. Maybe I'll bake it myself. And a toy. Maybe I'll buy something small. Will she understand? She's still so little." She imagines her daughter's face on the morning of her birthday, the anticipation of happiness in her eyes, and then the attempt to hide her disappointment if her dream doesn't come true. Holly is a good girl. She never cries or screams if she doesn't get what she wants. She just quietly feels sad, and this quiet sadness breaks Carla's heart. She turns away from the shop window. She can't bear to look any longer. She adjusts her bag on her shoulder and continues walking toward the bus stop. There's a wallet in her jacket pocket. It contains a little money for groceries, for transportation, for the bare necessities. It's not enough for a dollhouse. Carla boards the arriving bus, takes a window seat, and watches the city lights recede into the distance. She considers taking on extra hours, maybe finding another part-time job, but she's already short on time. She hardly sees Holly, who's increasingly staying with her neighbor. The bus shakes on the road. Carla closes her eyes. Tomorrow will be a new day. You just need to move forward. Think of something. You have to think of something. Holly's birthday and her empty wallet. The thoughts feel heavy as stones. She takes out her keys, approaches her door on the 5th floor, and freezes. A large cardboard box sits right by the door. It's tied with a wide pink ribbon and a huge bow. The box is almost half the size of the door. Next to it, a thick cardboard pastry box with patterned edges sits neatly. Carla blinks. She looks at the boxes, then quickly glances around. The long hallway is empty. Not a soul. Only the dim light of the overhead bulb and silence. Carla, what is this? She carefully touches the large box. It's real. Then she leans toward the cake box. The sweet, delicate scent of vanilla and strawberry wafts from under the lid. Carla's heart starts beating faster. Someone clearly got the wrong address. These are expensive items. Someone is waiting for them. But there's no tag or note on the boxes. Just perfect bows. She looks down the hallway again. No one's coming. No footsteps. Only the ticking of the clock in the apartment beyond the wall. Carla hesitates. She can't leave it by the door. Someone will take it. And she feels uneasy. Things like that are always a problem. But standing here is pointless. Carla. Okay, we'll figure it out now. She struggles to lift the heavy box into her arms. It rests against her chin. She clutches the candy box to her chest with her other hand. The keys dangle from their ends in her fingers. With difficulty, almost by touch, she opens the door, carries both boxes into the small hallway, and sets them down on the floor. The door clicks shut behind her. Carla leans against the doorframe and catches her breath. In her small, modest apartment, these elegant boxes look like aliens from another planet. They don't fit into her world of a worn sofa, an old television, and bookshelves filled with photographs. She doesn't dare open it. She just looks at them, arms crossed. Questions are spinning in her head. Maybe it's from work, a bonus, but they would have said so. Maybe it's a neighbor, but she doesn't have the money for that. The sweet scent of cake gradually fills the hallway. It smells of childhood, of celebration, of something so missing right now. Carla closes her eyes for a second. Whatever the answer, these boxes have already brought with them a sense of wonder. If only for a moment. Holly burst into the hallway like a small hurricane. Behind her, she could hear her neighbor's voice from the other side of the door. Neighbor. Carla! I'll get her back. Everything's okay, Carla. Thank you, Martha. The door closes. Holly kicks off her tiny sandals and rushes to her mother. Holly. Mom, I'm home. Aunt Martha and I were making clay. And then her gaze falls on the floor. On a large pink box and a fancy candy store box, Holly freezes in place. Her eyes grow huge and round. She slowly, as if in a dream, approaches. She squats down in front of a large box. She touches the bow with her finger. Holly, this? What is this? Carla looks at her daughter. She sees hope gleam in Holly's eyes, mixed with a tinge of disbelief. Holly, very quietly, "Is this for me?" Carla looks at the boxes again. She still doesn't understand where they came from, but she sees her daughter's face. She sees her holding her breath, and all her questions, all her worries and suspicions melt away in that moment, like ice in the sun. Carla nods slowly. She can't say a word. She just nods. That nod becomes a magic key. Holly's face lights up with such a bright, sunny smile that the small hallway seems to brighten. She makes a delighted sound, half a squeal, half a laugh. "Holly! Hooray!" She jumps up and runs towards Carla, wrapping her arms around her neck. Carla barely keeps her balance. "Holly, thank you, Mommy. You're the best in the world. I knew it. I knew you'd make it work." She kisses Carla on the cheek, hugs her tightly, then rushes back to the boxes. Carla feels a shiver run down her spine. A lump forms in her throat. This is wrong. She can't accept gratitude for someone else's gift. She has to explain everything. But when she watches Holly feverishly, yet so carefully, try to untie the enormous bow, her fingers trembling with impatience, all the words get stuck inside. Her daughter's eyes shine with pure, absolute joy. Carla hadn't seen such joy in her in a long time. Carla, to herself, "Fine. Okay, let's have a party now. We'll figure it out tomorrow." She comes over and helps untie the ribbon. The lid of the box falls off. Inside, behind the plastic wrap, pink plastic glistens. It's that very dollhouse. 3 stories, with an opening facade, with tiny furniture, and with an elevator. Holly sits down on the floor, clasping her head in her hands. Holly, he's real. Mom, look, he's exactly like this. Carla opens the pastry box. Inside, on lacy paper, lies a perfect strawberry cake, decorated with pink cream roses. Carla looks at her daughter, at the cake, at the house, and she decides. She decides to give Holly this miracle. All of it, without question. Let this evening be magical. She smiles, and that smile finally becomes real. "Carla, let's move the playhouse into the room and set the table for tea. We're having a celebration today." The next day, the apartment is filled with a quiet, happy tiredness. The dollhouse stands in the corner of Holly's room. The cake was finished at breakfast. Holly spends the day reenacting scenes from the doll family's life, and her quiet, murmuring voice can be heard from behind the door. Carla is washing dishes in the kitchen. She smiles, remembering last night, but deep down, a worry lurks. Where did the gifts come from? She checked. No calls, no messages. No one had shown up. Meanwhile, Holly is sitting on the carpet in the living room. She hugs her knees and looks at the little house. It's beautiful, but now it seems a little lonely. She imagines a big polar bear, fluffy, soft as a cloud. He could sit next to the little house and guard it, like a sentinel, like a loyal friend. The thought of the bear captivates her. Mom gave her such a wonderful gift yesterday. Maybe she'll understand this time too. Mom is so kind. Holly crawls over to the coffee table where her mother's old phone lies. She picks it up. The screen is dark. She presses a button. The phone displays a list of recent calls. The top one is the call she made yesterday to Mom. Holly doesn't look at the numbers. She simply presses the top number on the list and puts the phone to her ear. The phone rings. Once. Twice. In the penthouse above, Seok-chul is discussing something with Min Ho. His personal phone vibrates on the table. He glances at the screen. It's the same number. His face remains inscrutable, but a spark of interest flickers in his eyes. He raises his hand, interrupting Min Ho, and picks up the phone. Seok-chul, hello. And again on the line is the same ringing, familiar voice. Holly, hello, Mom? It's me again. Listen, can I have one more thing? Can I have a huge polar bear? A really fluffy one? To guard my house. I promise I'll be really, really good. I've already put away my toys today. She speaks quickly, in one gulp, afraid that her mother will interrupt her. There is silence on the other end of the line. Holly, Mom, do you agree? Please. Seok-chul sits silently. He hears the same hope in her voice as the first time, but now there's also trust. She believes her request will be fulfilled. The corners of his lips twitch slightly. He almost finds it funny. Almost. He opens his mouth to finally say, "You've got the wrong number, girl." But Holly, without waiting for an answer, and deciding that her mother is simply busy, is already talking. Holly, thank you, Mommy. You're the best. I knew it. Love you. Click. Beeps. Seok-chul lowers his phone. He looks at Min Ho, who waits for him to continue. The office is quiet. Seok-chul, calmly. Min Ho, change of plans? Min Ho, yes, boss? Seok-chul, I need to buy one more thing. A big teddy bear, white, the biggest size I can find, and have it delivered to the same address. Not a muscle moved on Minho's face. He simply nodded briefly. Minho, got it. I'll do it. Seok-chul turns to the window. Somewhere out there lives a little girl who believes in a kind mother who grants all her wishes. And he, without meaning to, has become part of this fairy tale. It's strange. It's stupid, but a rule is a rule. There was a request. Seok-chul places the phone on the table. His finger lingers for a second on the warm glass screen, where the number had just lit up. The office is silent again, but it's different now. Not heavy and businesslike, but somehow perplexed. And a little funny, he leans back in his leather chair. For the first time in a long time, an expression appears on his face that has nothing to do with work. The corners of his lips lift, just slightly. It's not a smile, more like a hint of surprise, tinged with a strange warmth. The girl called again. She's asking for a bear, a huge white one, to guard the dollhouse. She speaks with such sincerity, so confidently, that her request sounds not like a whim, but like an important, almost strategic mission. He looks out the window at the city at night. Somewhere out there lives this Holly. She's playing with the house she gave him, and has already invented a guard for it. She has a wild imagination. And now, by some ridiculous coincidence, this imagination has become his personal affair. Seok Cheol slowly turns his head towards Min-ho. His assistant is still standing by the table, maintaining an impassive expression, but a silent question is visible in his eyes. Seok Chul, calmly. Min-ho, there's another assignment, not work-related. Min-ho, I'm listening. Seok Chul, I need a big white teddy bear. The biggest one I can find in town. Fluffy, cute, to guard. He hesitated for a moment as he uttered that last word. It sounded absurd in his own office, where they usually discussed completely different things. Min-ho blinks only slightly. His professional composure prevents him from expressing surprise out loud. Min-ho, got it. Same parameters? Deliver to the same address? Quietly? Seok Cheol nods. Seok Chul, yes, the same methods, so that no one sees and doesn't disturb the residents. And so that it's done by evening, before my mother comes home. Min-ho gives a curt nod, turns, and heads for the exit. His hand is already reaching for the door handle when Seok Chol's voice stops him. Seok Chul, yi, Min-ho. The assistant turns around. Seok Chul, choose a good one, not just a big one. Someone who's kind-looking. Ho's face. His eyebrow involuntarily rises a fraction of a millimeter. He looks at his boss, trying to figure out if he's joking. But Seok Chul's face is serious. Completely serious. Min-ho, good. Kind in appearance. Got it. He walks out, carefully closing the door behind him. Seok Chul is left alone. He stands up, goes to the minibar, and pours himself a glass of water. He doesn't drink alcohol when he needs to think. And there's plenty to think about right now. He's breaking his own safety rules, interfering in the lives of strangers. Things are ruined because of some stupid accident. All of this is true. But somewhere deep inside, in a place he'd long blocked off, something else stirs. Something warm and simple. The girl asked. She was happy. He made her happy again. In his complex, cold world, this seems like the only truly clear and right thing he's done in the last few years. He takes a sip of water. A rule is a rule. If someone asks, they must obey, even if the request was made by mistake, even if it's a request for a big white bear. The evening arrives, gray and rainy. Carla returns home from work later than usual. The bus is stuck in traffic. She's drenched in the rain as she runs from the bus stop to her house, thinking only about warming up in the shower and checking Holly's homework. She climbs the stairs, shaking the drops off her jacket. She approaches her door and rummages through her bag for her keys. Then her gaze falls on the threshold. Her hand freezes in her bag. A bear sits by the door, leaning its back against the wall. Not just any bear, but a giant snow-white plush toy. It's almost half Carla's height. Its beady black eyes stare off to the side. A blue silk bow is tied around its neck. Carla freezes. She looks around. The hallway is empty. The only sound is the television coming from the neighbor's door. No footsteps, no rustling. The bear simply stands there, as if someone quietly sat him down and left. Carla's heart starts pounding, thumping somewhere in her throat. It's no longer surprise. It's fear. A cold, sticky fear creeps up her heart. Someone knows where she lives. Someone is bringing her daughter expensive gifts. First a house and a cake. Now this huge teddy bear. This is no accident. This is not the courier's mistake. These are someone's deliberate actions. She quickly, almost instinctively, grabs the bear. The toy is incredibly heavy and fluffy. She hugs it close, fumbles for the key with one hand, and inserts it into the lock. Her hands are shaking. The door finally opens. She drags the bear inside, tosses it into the hallway, and immediately slams the door, turning the lock all the way. She leans her back against the door, breathing heavily, as if she's just finished a long run. The small hallway feels cramped now. A giant polar bear lies on the floor, its muzzle pressed against the wall. It looks both awkward and creepy. Carla looks at him and feels a shiver run down her spine. Who did this? What does this man want? Money? But why gifts then? To intimidate? But the bear, he's cute. The terrifying mixes with the ridiculous, and it only makes it worse. Holly's voice can be heard from inside the room. Holly, Mom, is that you? Carla, keeping her voice from shaking. Yes, I am, honey. Right now. Carla pushes away from the door. She needs to get a grip. She can't scare her daughter. She grabs the bear by the paw and drags it with difficulty into her bedroom, out of Holly's sight. She shoves it into the far corner and covers it with the blanket. A white paw, the unruly, emerges from under the covers. Carla stands and stares at this strange lump. Now she feels completely uneasy. Something foreign, inexplicable, has appeared in her own home, and she doesn't know what to do with it. Carla brews cocoa in the kitchen to calm her nerves. Her hands are still shaking. She hears Holly laughing in the room, playing with the dollhouse. That ordinary, happy sound now grates on her ears. Her little girl is safe. She suspects nothing, but anyone could be lurking behind that door. The cups of cocoa grow warm in her hands. Carla takes a deep breath and exhales. She needs to calm down. She needs to figure this out. But first, she needs to talk to Holly. Honestly, she walks into the room. Holly is sitting on the carpet, arranging tiny furniture in the dollhouse living room. Carla. Holly, honey, just a minute. She sits down on the edge of the sofa next to her. She places the cups on the table. Holly turns around and smiles, but when she sees her mother's face, the smile slowly fades from her lips. Holly. Mom, is something wrong? You look so sad. Carla takes her hands in hers. They are so small and warm. Carla. It's okay, honey. I just need to ask you something. It's very important. Will you tell me the truth? Holly nods, her eyes wide and serious. Holly? Of course, Mom. Carla chooses her words carefully. She doesn't want to scare. Carla. That big polar bear that I know you wanted. Do you know who brought it? Holly looks at her mother with genuine, pure bewilderment. She doesn't even bat an eyelid. Holly. Like who? You, Mom. Carla feels her heart beat hard. Carla. Holly, I didn't bring any bear today. I just got home from work. Now the bewilderment on Holly's face gives way to mild hurt and confusion. She shakes her head. Holly. No, Mom. It was you. I called you yesterday and asked. You heard me. I told you about a huge bear to guard the house. You said everything would happen. Carla freezes. An icy wave rolls over her from head to toe. Carla. I didn't call you yesterday, honey. I had important work on the computer all evening. I didn't pick up. Holly suddenly looks scared. Her bottom lip trembles slightly. Holly. But I called. I dialed your number. Like I always do. I said, and Mom agreed. Carla squeezes her hands tighter. Carla. Holly, listen to me carefully. Are you sure you dialed my number? Maybe you made a mistake? Didn't look carefully? The girl looks away. She's thinking. Doubt flickers in her eyes. Holly. I just pressed the topmost ringtone on my phone. The one from yesterday. I called you yesterday to say thank you for the house. So that was your number. Something clicks in Carla's head. Yesterday's call. She did see a missed call from Holly last night, but she was busy and called back later. Holly could have called then, but if she dialed the wrong number the first time, Carla stands up slowly. Her face has turned pale. Carla. Where's my phone, Holly? The phone is lying on the kitchen table, where Carla left it charging. She picks it up with trembling fingers. The screen lights up. She opens the call log and finds yesterday's incoming call from Holly. Correct. And then she opens the call history on Holly's phone itself. The girl stands nearby, clutching her favorite doll to her chest. She is silent, watching as her mother's face becomes increasingly stern and focused. Carla scrolls through the list. Here's today's call, to her number. And here's yesterday's. She taps it. A phone number appears on the screen. A long string of numbers. Carla looks at it, and her eyes start darting from number to number, comparing it to her own number, which she knows by heart. They are almost identical. Almost, but not quite. One number. Just one number in the middle is different. Instead of a 7, it's a 4. Because of the poor lighting, because she was rushing, because Holly was excited and didn't look closely, she made a mistake. Carla sinks into a kitchen chair. Her ears are ringing. So that's it. It all stems from a simple, stupid, childish mistake. Holly called someone she didn't know twice, but a stranger. And that stranger bought and sent her a dollhouse, a cake, and now this giant teddy bear. Who is he? Why did he do it? What does he want? My thoughts are racing. The options are one more terrifying than the next. A maniac? A child abductor? A rich eccentric? But why so quietly? Without any attempt to contact? Without notes? Without demands? She looks at the number. It glows on the screen like an accusation. She, Carla, knew nothing. She allowed a stranger to become entangled in their lives. She even thanked him indirectly, delighted with the gift along with her daughter. Fear gives way to searing shame, and then a new wave of fear, even stronger. This man knows their address. He's been at their door twice. Holly gently touches her arm. Holly. Mom, what happened? Isn't this your number? Carla looks at her daughter's frightened face. She has to pull herself together. She has to. Carla. No, honey. That's not my number. You've got the wrong number. You are talking to a stranger. Holly freezes, her eyes filling with tears. Holly. I didn't mean to. I thought it was you. And is he a bad person? The question hangs in the air. Carla doesn't know what to say. A bad person wouldn't give such gifts without reason, but a good person wouldn't either. A good person wouldn't secretly ask for addresses and leave things at the door. Carla hugs her daughter and holds her close. Carla, I don't know, Holly, but we're going to find out. Everything will be okay, I promise. And she looks at the ill-fated number on the screen. She needs to call, now, right now, and find out who this person is and what they want from them. Carla sits on a kitchen chair, staring at her phone screen. The numbers dance before her eyes. She tries to collect her thoughts, to think of something to say, but her mind is empty and filled with a deep, dreadful feeling. Every logical question seems stupid. Every phrase seems dangerous. She takes a deep breath, holds it, and presses the call button. She puts the phone to her ear. She hears long beeps. 1, 2. Her heart pounds so loudly, it seems it will drown them out. She almost hopes that no one will answer, that the number is out of order, that it was all a dream. But on the third ring, it clicks. The connection is established. There's silence on the line. Not the kind of silence when the line is empty, but a lively, sensitive silence. Someone on the other end is listening, without saying hello. Carla feels her mouth go dry. She must speak first. She has to. Carla, hello? The silence lasts another second. Then a voice breaks it. Low, calm, without a trace of emotion. There is neither menace nor friendliness in it. It is simply there, as a fact. Voice on the phone. Hello. This single word sounds so confident, so commanding, that Carla is momentarily speechless. She had been braced for anything. Rudeness, mockery, anger, but not this icy, absolute composure. Her own voice breaks as she finally forces the question out. Carla, who are you? What do you want with my daughter? She hears her words sound harsh, almost hysterical, but she can't hold back. There's silence again on the line. A brief pause, as if the stranger is considering his answer. When he finally speaks, his voice is still calm, but there's a subtle, barely perceptible note in it. An apology? Stranger, my name is Seok-cheol, and I don't want anything from your daughter. Absolutely nothing. Carla interrupts him without listening. Carla, no need? Then why did you? How dare you? You found out our address. You sent these things. Seok-chul, your daughter dialed the wrong number. She called me thinking she was talking to you. She asked for a gift. I fulfilled it. His explanation sounds so simple, so matter-of-fact, as if he were talking about the weather. It drives Carla crazy. Carla, you did it? You did it for a stranger? Are you out of your mind? Seok-chul, perhaps not, but I have a rule. If someone asks me for a favor, I fulfill it, even if the request is wrong. Carla, this is crazy. You could have scared her, or something worse. There's something else in his voice now. Firmness. Seok-chul, that's exactly what I didn't want. To scare her. I heard her voice. She was so sure she was talking to her mother. If I had answered, told her she was mistaken, I would have heard the disappointment in her voice. I didn't like it. He says the last phrase with a slight hesitation, as if he were choosing an unfamiliar word. Carla is silent. His logic, twisted and strange, disarms her for a moment. She imagines this scene, Holly, full of hope, and that deep voice saying, girl, you've come to the wrong place. Yes, Holly would be upset, but that would be normal. And what he did, Carla, you had no right to invade our lives. It's dangerous and creepy. Seok-chul, you're right. I apologize. My actions were thoughtless. I just wanted for the birthday to go well. It won't happen again. He says apologies as calmly as he says everything else, without a hint of remorse, but also without mockery, as a statement of fact. His words hang in the air. Carla can't believe her ears. Is all this because of a birthday? Because of a desire to do good? Carla, you just bought expensive things? The dollhouse? That giant teddy bear? Why? What are you looking for? Money? Are you going to bill me later? There's a short, quiet sound on the other end of the line, almost like a suppressed exhalation. Not laughter, more like mild bewilderment. Seok-chul, I don't demand money, and I never will. Never. These were gifts, only gifts. Carla, but why? You don't know us. We're nothing to you. A pause, a longer one. He seems to be considering his answer for the first time. When he speaks again, his voice is quieter, a little distant, as if he's speaking to more than just her. Seok-chul, children should be happy. It's an axiom. Her joy on that first bell. It was genuine, contagious. There's little like that in my world. I had the opportunity to prolong that joy. That's all. Carla, that's it? She repeats, her voice breaking. You sound like an alien. This isn't normal, Seok-chul. Perhaps. I don't pretend to be normal, but my intentions were pure. I mean you and your daughter no harm. You can throw out all the gifts if they bother you, or keep them, whichever you prefer. Forget this number. Forget about me. I won't bother you again. There's a finality to his tone. He seems to genuinely consider the conversation over, but his words left Carla's mind racing. Fear warred with a bizarre, wild relief. He wasn't a maniac. He wasn't an extortionist. He was an oddball. A rich, lonely, strange man with incomprehensible principles? Carla. I don't know what to say. Seok-chul. There's no need to say anything. I apologize again for bothering you. All the best. And before she could say anything, the line started to ring. He hung up. Carla slowly lowers her hand, holding the phone, onto the table. Her palm is damp. His low, measured voice still rings in her ears. Children should be happy, that's all. She sits motionless, trying to digest everything. He apologized. He promised not to bother her anymore. It seemed the danger had passed, but the feeling of relief didn't come. In its place, a heavy, vague turmoil settled within. Their lives, if only for a moment, had intersected with the life of some other, incomprehensible world. And that world had left a trace on their doorstep in the form of a pink dollhouse and a polar bear. She gets up and goes into the living room. Holly is sitting on the floor, hugging a huge white stuffed animal. She whispers something softly in his ear, stroking his soft paw. Carla pauses in the doorway. Her heart sinks. The girl has already become attached to this guardian. She sees in him a part of the miracle, a part of her mother's love that was never there. Carla comes over and sits down next to her. She takes Holly's chin in her hand and gently turns her face toward her. Her eyes are serious, stern. Carla, Holly, listen to me very carefully. That number you called, that was a stranger's number. You must never, do you hear me? Never call that number again. Never. Promise me. Holly looks at her mother, sees the worry in her eyes, and nods, scared and quick. Holly, I promise, Mom. I won't do it again. Carla, good girl. She hugs her daughter, feeling her press against her, but her gaze falls on the bear, flawless, fluffy, with stupid black eyes. He is here. He is already part of their home, part of their history. Carla feels strange. She should be furious. She should throw these gifts in the trash, erasing all traces of the intrusion. But she looks at Holly, who stealthily reaches out to hug the bear again, and she can't bring herself to do so. She hates this stranger, Seok-chul, for interfering in their lives, but she also hates herself for that split second when, seeing her daughter's shining eyes by the dollhouse, she thought, thank you, whoever you are. Now this man and his quiet, calm voice will live in her memory, like an uninvited guest who brought with him a mixture of fear, bewilderment, and unwanted, misplaced gratitude. Ho is behind the wheel. He doesn't move, just stares out the window, his hands on the wheel. He's on an unusual mission to make sure the woman and the girl are okay and report back. The evening shadows are already long. The front door opens, and Carla steps out. Min-ho immediately recognizes her from the photo. She's carrying 2 huge mesh bags filled with groceries. They're clearly heavy. Carla grabs the handles, trying to redistribute the weight. She walks slowly, slightly hunched over, and every few steps she sets the bags down to catch her breath. Her face, illuminated by the streetlight, looks pale and very tired. She approaches the entrance, opens the door with difficulty with one hand, clutching the other bag with her knee, and disappears inside. Min-ho waits another 10 minutes. The window on the 5th floor lights up yellow. All is quiet. No one has approached. He starts the engine and drives away smoothly. An hour later, Min-ho is standing in Seok-chul's office. The boss listens to his usual work report and nods. When the business portion is over, there's a short pause. Min-ho, and about that, additional question. I checked the address today. Everything is quiet. No suspicious persons. Seok-chul looks at him, waiting for him to continue. Min-ho, I saw the woman herself, Carla. She was returning with groceries, alone. She looked very tired. The bags were heavy, nothing else remarkable. Seok-chul nods slowly, his face expressionless. Seok-chul, okay, thank you. You can go. Min-ho leaves. The door closes. Seok-chul is left alone. He leans back in his chair and stares at the ceiling. A clear image forms in his mind. A woman, alone, tired, lugging heavy bags. And at her home, a little daughter, waiting for dinner, and possibly afraid of the large polar bear in the corner. He didn't want to interfere anymore. He'd given his word, but now he knows. He knows she's alone. He knows she's struggling. His rule has been fulfilled, but a new, quiet fact has emerged. One that doesn't ask for, but demands, some kind of action. He can't simply erase it from his memory. The next day, Carla returns from work a little early. Her shift ended at noon. She practically runs home. She needs to pick up Holly from after-school care, do her homework, and cook dinner from leftovers. Her wallet rustles with a little change until tomorrow's small payday. She climbs the stairs, thinking about pasta and ketchup for dinner, and pauses again at her door. There's a new bag on the floor. Not just any bag, but an expensive one, insulated, silver, the kind used for delivering prepared meals. It sits neatly, level, with no hint of who brought it. Carla feels a chill run down her spine. She knows exactly who it's from. She looks around. The hallway is empty. She grabs her bag, practically runs into the apartment, slams the door, and leans against it, holding the cold, unwelcome burden in her arms. She places the bag on the kitchen table and opens it. Inside, everything is perfectly tidy. Plastic containers hold freshly prepared food, chicken with vegetables, a salad in a separate bowl, and a side of rice. Fruit lies nearby, apples, bananas, washed grapes in a tray, and several bottles, juice, milk, yogurt, all high quality, expensive, everything she can't afford right now. Carla stands and looks at this abundance, and she is overcome with rage, pure burning anger. How dare he? How dare he follow her? How dare he decide that she needs his pity and his handouts? She wants to grab that bag and throw it out the window. She wants to write him an angry message full of insults. She clenches her fists, but then her gaze falls on the empty refrigerator. She remembers the tiredness in her bones from yesterday's grocery shopping. She remembers Holly, who asked for yogurt for breakfast yesterday and didn't have any. Carla closes her eyes. The anger doesn't go away, but it's overwhelmed by another, stronger and more mundane wave, fatigue and hunger, and a shameful, humiliating relief. She exhales slowly, struggles with herself. Practicality wins over pride. She can't afford to throw away such food. Not now. She silently begins to transfer containers into the refrigerator. Her hands are shaking. Each container, each bottle, is a silent reminder of her helplessness and the strange, obsessive attention from a man she's never seen. The evening passes quietly. Holly is delighted with the festive dinner and happy to finally be eating yogurt. Carla is forcing herself to eat. The food is delicious and fresh, but every bite leaves a lump in her throat. She puts Holly to bed, reads her a story, kisses her forehead. She returns to the kitchen and looks at her phone. She has to do this. She can't just let this go. She finds the number in her call history. It doesn't ring. She types a message. She writes, crosses it out, and writes again. In the end, she's left with a short, dry text. Carla, thanks for the food, but please, no more. She hits send. The message flies into the void. She waits, not knowing what to expect. Anger? Ridicule? Ignored? The answer comes almost instantly, quickly, as if he'd been waiting. Just 3 words. Seok Chul. Okay, sorry for bothering you. Carla reads the message over and over again. Nothing extraneous. No explanations. No excuses. No questions, just okay, and a perfunctory apology. It's even more disarming than if he'd started arguing. She doesn't know whether to be angry or to believe him. She puts the phone down on the table and cleans the kitchen. The silence in the apartment seems louder now. She feels the strange, unhealthy connection between her and the stranger on the other side of town weakening, but not breaking. It simply hangs in the air, like that text message, now stored in her phone's memory. Chul's office is a place where everything is orderly. The large desk is bare, save for a computer, a phone, and a single stack of papers. The lighting is even and bright. There are no pictures on the walls, only simple dark wood paneling. 3 men stand in front of the table. They report on business, deliveries, contracts, and the movement of funds. They speak clearly, respectfully, without unnecessary words. Seok Chul listens. Sometimes he asks a short, precise question. Sometimes he simply nods. His face is a stony mask of concentration. He's completely in his element here. Everything is clear here. Rules, consequences, control. Seok Chul. The contract for the Southern District needs to be double-checked. All the guarantee clauses. By Friday. First man. Got it, boss. Seok Chul. And transfer the transport logistics to Min. Hose control. Make sure there are daily reports. Second man. Will do it. He gives a few more instructions. Each one is final and not open to discussion. After 15 minutes, everything is decided. The men bow and leave. The door closes with a soft click, and then the office plunges into absolute silence. The noise of the city doesn't reach here. Seok Chul sits motionless for a few minutes. Then his gaze slowly slides to his phone. He picks it up and turns on the screen. There are no new messages, just his final short reply. Okay, sorry for the disturbance. He puts his phone down, stands up and goes to the huge wall-sized window. Beyond it, nighttime Seoul spreads out. Myriad lights, skyscrapers, moving streams of cars, an entire world living its own life, a world in which he has achieved so much, which he controls. But here, up here, in this quiet, sterile room, he is alone. He looks at the lights, but they're not what he sees. He sees the tired face of a woman carrying heavy bags. He hears not business reports, but the ringing laughter of a child on the phone, asking for a polar bear. These images don't fit into the order of his world. They're alien, but for some reason, they're the ones filling the silence right now. He turns away from the window. His gaze falls on the phone again. He kept his word. He won't interfere anymore. It's over. He returns to his desk, sits down, and opens the next report. His face becomes focused and inscrutable again. but in the all-too-quiet office, the loneliness is now more acute. The sun finally came out after several cloudy days. Carla decided to take advantage of the opportunity and take Holly to a small park near the house. The girl bounced around her, full of energy after a week spent indoors. Carla, don't run too far, okay? Holly, okay, Mom. But Holly was already racing down the alley, waving the little plastic horse, her new treasure. Carla followed, breathing in the fresh air and trying to push away the troubling thoughts of work, debt, and that strange man whose image still occasionally surfaced in her memory. There was a branch lying on the path ahead. Holly, looking back at her mother, didn't notice it. She tripped, and the toy slipped from her hands, bounced, and rolled towards someone's polished black boots. Holly gasped and froze, looking at her lost horse. The boots belonged to a man in a long, perfectly fitting dark gray coat. He was walking down the alley toward them, alone, and seemed completely out of place in this cozy park filled with mothers and children. Seeing a rolling toy, he stopped, slowly bent down, and picked it up. He held the plastic horse in his neat fingers, examining it for a moment, as if it were an important document. Then he looked up and saw Holly frozen, and Carla, who had hurried forward. Her heart skipped a beat for some reason. The man took 2 steps forward and held out the toy. His movements were calm and precise. Seokcheol, here you go. Holly took the horse timidly. Holly, thank you. At that moment, Carla came over and put her hand on her daughter's shoulder. She looked up to thank the stranger, and her gaze met his. He was tall. His face was serious, high cheekboned, unfamiliar, but his eyes, attentive, deep, and for a split second, something other than simple politeness flashed in them. Recognition? No, more like assessment. A quiet statement of fact. So that's what you're like. Carla felt a shiver run down her spine. She didn't know him, but something in that look, that absolute confident stillness, was familiar. It hung in the air of the phone conversation. Holly, having recovered from her embarrassment, gave the man her sunniest smile. Holly, thank you, mister. That smile seemed to momentarily change something in his face. The sternness around his eyes softened a hair. He bowed his head slightly in response, but his gaze was already fixed on Carla. He was silent. He waited for her to speak. Carla felt her tongue stick to the roof of her mouth. She should just say thank you and leave. It was common courtesy, but her body tensed like a string. That look! He looked straight ahead, unwavering, without impudence, but also without embarrassment. He saw her, not just a woman with a child, but her. Carla quickly looked down, breaking contact. She grabbed Holly's hand, a little too tightly. Carla, thank you. Let's go, Holly. Her voice was sharp and dry. She pulled her daughter along with her, barely looking at her feet. She felt his gaze on her back. She walked quickly, almost running, until they turned the corner of another alley. Only then did she allow herself to slow down. Her heart was pounding. It was him, she knew. It was that same voice from the phone. Seokcheol, had he found them? Followed them? No, the meeting seemed completely random. But then why was that look so knowing? Holly tugged at her hand. Holly, Mom, why are you so quick? Mister was nice, he helped. Carla, yeah, good. We just have to go, honey. She tried to calm down, but the image of his eyes, serious, attentive, seeing right through her, wouldn't leave her head. She imagined some kind of monster, a ghost from the phone, but she'd met just a man. Stern, silent, with a face marked by life. There was nothing overtly threatening about him, but there was something powerful, controlled, and that frightened her even more. At the same time, somewhere deep inside, another feeling was stirring, curiosity, and a shameful relief. He wasn't a shadow. He was a man of flesh and blood, who had simply picked up her daughter's toy. Night caught them by surprise. Holly, who had complained of fatigue during the day, was as hot as a coal by evening. Her temperature had risen suddenly and rapidly. Carla, having made a quick run to the 24-hour pharmacy around the corner, returned empty-handed. They didn't have the syrup they needed. The medicine cabinet had been depleted the previous week. Holly's cheeks were flushed, her breathing shallow and rapid. She moaned softly, pulled under the blanket. Panic, cold and clammy, gripped Carla's heart. Call an ambulance. It could take a long time. A taxi to the hospital? But there was almost no money. She needed medication now, this very second. She paced the room, then stopped dead in her tracks. Her gaze fell on the phone. And involuntarily, a number popped into her head. Not 911, not her neighbor's number. That number, the number of the man who had appeared in their lives twice before, when things were tough. The man who had said in a calm voice, "I mean no harm." She hated herself for thinking that. It was madness. Dangerous. But the sight of her daughter burning outweighed all rational arguments. Fear for Holly eclipsed fear of the stranger. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone. She found the number in her call history. Her finger hovered over the button. Everything inside her screamed no, but she pressed it. The beeps seemed to last forever. Each one was a nerve-wracking blow. She was about to hang up when the connection finally established. The silence on the line was deafening. Carla exhaled into the phone, her voice sounding choked and desperate. Carla. Hello? It's me again. Carla. I need help. She looked pleadingly into space, as if he could see her. Carla. My daughter. Holly has a very high fever. I don't have any medicine. The pharmacies are closed. I don't know what to do. She fell silent, afraid of indifference or refusal in response, afraid that her frantic call would go unanswered. There was silence on the line. But it wasn't emptiness. It was the stillness of concentration. When Seok Chul spoke, his voice was as even as ever, but it had a new metallic hardness. Seok Chul. The same address? Carla. Yes. Seok Chul. Symptoms? Temperature? Is she breathing evenly? Carla. 39.5. Yee! She's breathing, but quickly. Her eyes are shining. Seok Chul. Good. Don't take her anywhere. Wanchu. Don't go outside. They'll be there in 20 minutes. Everything will be fine. Wait. He hung up without waiting for an answer. Carla sank into a chair next to the bed, still clutching the phone. His tone left no room for doubt. He wasn't asking, how can I help? He was saying, everything will be all right. She waited, stroking Holly's hot forehead and listening to every rustle outside the door. Exactly 20 minutes later, just as he'd said, there was a quiet but distinct knock. Not a bell, a knock. Carla rushed to the door and peered through the peephole. It wasn't Seok Chul standing on the landing. It was another man, wearing a formal dark suit and with an impassive, professional face. He held a small but capacious first aid kit made of expensive plastic and a white envelope. She opened the door. The man silently handed her the first aid kit, then his business card. Assistant. There's a proven antipyretic for children in the first aid kit. The dosage by weight is listed. There's rehydration powder. All the instructions are inside. And this is Dr. Elate's business card. He's a pediatrician. If your fever doesn't start to drop within an hour, or if other symptoms appear, call this number. He lives 10 minutes away and will be there immediately. All consultations and visits are already paid for. You have nothing to worry about. He spoke quietly, quickly, without a single unnecessary word. Then he bowed his head slightly. Assistant, get well soon. And without waiting for an answer, he turned around and silently walked down the stairs. Carla stood in the doorway, clutching the cool first aid kit and business card to her chest. His words still hung in the air. Paid. Don't worry. Tears welled in her eyes. Tears of wild, incredible relief, and bitterness, and shame, and some new aching gratitude that she could no longer fight. He was here again. Not himself, but his will, his strange, inexplicable care. And this time, she had saved them. The fever subsides quickly. By morning, Holly wakes up pale but clear-eyed. She drinks a vitamin drink made from the powders in the medicine cabinet, and even asks for a piece of apple. Carla watches her, and the weight finally lifts from her soul. She sits on the edge of the bed, stroking Holly's hair, her phone in her hand again. She scrolls through the photos. There she is, sleeping, hugging a polar bear. There she is, smiling, pressing a soft paw to her cheek. Carla pauses on this frame. The girl looks happy and protected. Her hand reaches for the share button. She opens the chat with that one number. The last message is his dry, okay, sorry to bother you. She freezes. This will be another violation of boundaries. It will be a signal. But hasn't he already received the most important signal, her panicked call that night? And hasn't he answered it immediately? Carla doesn't feel gratitude. She's already overwhelmed by it. She feels need. He needs to see that his help wasn't in vain, that the little girl who once mistakenly called him is now okay. She selects the photo, the one of Holly smiling at the bear, and sends it. No comment, just the photo. The answer comes in less than a minute, as fast as if the phone were in his hand. Seok Chul. I'm glad she's better. Just 6 words, no emoticons, no unnecessary questions. But in this short sentence, for the first time, Carla hears more than just politeness or formality. She hears a quiet, genuine satisfaction. He's glad. Not okay, not got it, but glad. That changes everything. Carla clutches the phone to her chest and looks at Holly, who's sleeping. Perhaps this strange, frightening man really is who he claims to be. The next day, when Carla checks her phone, she sees a new message. It arrived early in the morning. Seok Chul. I think we should meet, so you can stop being afraid of me. Just talk. In a cafe, in front of people. You choose the place. Anytime that's convenient for you. Carla rereads the message several times. Her first reaction is a sharp, no. Date him? This ghost who's suddenly become all too real. But then she reads the words. so you'll stop being afraid of me. He understands. He knows she's afraid, and he offers the safest option, a public place, her choice. She carries this sentence in her head all day, like a hot coal. She thinks about it when she makes breakfast, when she takes Holly to the garden, when she drives to work. Fear says, it's a trap. But logic, the same logic that made her call him that night, whispers, if he meant harm, he would have done it long ago. And he wouldn't have suggested a cafe in public. That evening, after putting Holly to bed, she sits in the kitchen with a cup of tea and her phone in hand. She stares at the screen. Images flash through her mind. A huge dollhouse, a bag of groceries, a serious face in the park, a first aid kit in the night, and those simple words, I'm glad she's feeling better. She opens the chat. Her fingers tremble as she types a reply. It's short, like his messages. Carla. Okay. She sends it and immediately adds the address of a small, quiet cafe in the center, always crowded. And the time is Saturday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The answer comes almost instantly. Seok-cheol, I'll be there. He's already seated at a table by the window when Carla walks in. She sees him first. It's impossible not to notice. He sits motionless, staring out the glass, and his posture, his calm confidence, sets him apart from the other patrons. He's wearing a formal coat again, this time black. He notices her, stands up, and waits for her to approach. Politely, like in an old movie, Carla sits down opposite him, removing her scarf. Between them, a cup of black coffee steams on the table. He's already ordered it for himself. He doesn't try to order anything for her, giving her room to choose. They are silent for a few minutes. Carla orders tea. The silence is not tense, but dense. Finally, he makes the first move. Seok-cheol, thank you for coming. Carla, you said you wanted to talk. Seok-cheol, yes, I think you have the right to know who you just happened to cross paths with. I'm not the easiest person. I have a complicated job, things that are best left undiscussed. I live in a world where not all the rules are the same as yours. He speaks directly, without apologies, but also without pride. He simply states the truth. Carla, I get it. You're scary. Seok-cheol, that makes sense. And I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be a source of fear, especially for your daughter. But when she called, her voice, her joy, it was something pure, unfamiliar to me. Your daughter reminded me of important things. Carla, which ones? He thinks for a second, his gaze lost somewhere outside the window. Seok-cheol, about simple joy, about how happiness can be so uncomplicated, a cake, a toy, about how sometimes you just need to do something good, without calculation, without reason, just because you can. I seem to have forgotten about that. Carla listens, and her protective wall cracks. There's no pathos in his words. There's weariness and regret. Carla, it was hard for me too. Very hard. Raising her alone, working 2 jobs, counting every penny. I'm constantly afraid of not being able to cope, of not giving her what she needs, of not protecting her. She hadn't planned to say it, but his directness provokes her own. Seok-cheol, you're doing well. She's a happy child. I could hear it in her voice even before I knew anything about you. Carla, and now you know too much about us. Seok-cheol, yes, and it's my fault. I wanted to correct one small injustice, the birthday disappointment, but I created a lot of awkwardness and fear. I didn't know how to stop without causing even more harm. They continue talking, without embellishment. She talks about her life as an emigrant, her homesickness, her fear of the future. He doesn't go into detail, but he talks about loneliness at the top, about a world where you can't trust anyone. They don't become friends in that hour, but they stop being ghosts and victims. They become 2 people who suddenly saw each other. When Carla gets up to leave, he doesn't try to stop her. He just nods slightly. Seok-cheol, thanks again for coming and for letting us help that night. Carla, thank you for your help and for this conversation. She leaves, and for the first time since that first call, she doesn't feel the chilling fear behind her. All that remains is a slight anxiety and a huge, complex bewilderment. Cheol's office the day after the meeting. The air here is always cool and clean, but today there's a slight tension in it. Seok-cheol looks over reports, but his mind is elsewhere. He's thinking about the cafe, about the conversation, about how Carla's face lost some of its wariness by the end of their meeting. The door opens without knocking. 2 people enter, Min-ho and another man, Chan, who is in charge of security. Their faces are tense. This is not a typical visit or report. Seok-cheol puts down his tablet. His gaze instantly becomes sharp and professional. Seok-cheol, what happened? Chan exchanges a glance with Min-ho and steps forward. His voice is quiet but clear. Chan, boss, we have a problem with the Southerners. Those negotiations that broke down last week, they weren't just offended. They started digging. Seok-cheol, see, what did they find? This is not a question. It is a demand. Min-ho speaks this time. His voice is dispassionate, but there's a hint of anxiety in it. Min-ho, they got wind of it, about the woman and the girl. Apparently, They followed the car the night we were delivering the medicine. They have an address. They haven't done anything yet, but they're asking questions. They're showing interest. Not a muscle moved on Seok Chul's face, but the office seemed to have suddenly grown colder. His eyes, so thoughtful just a moment ago, now resembled chunks of dark ice. All the gentleness, all the humanity that had shone through in the cafe yesterday had vanished without a trace. Before them, once again, stood only the boss, cold, determined, dangerous. He rises slowly from the table, his movements smooth and full of controlled strength. Seok Chul, in a quiet, even voice. This is no longer a problem. This is a declaration of war. On my personal space, no one has the right to even look in their direction. Do you understand? Chan and Minho nod in unison. They've seen that look before. They know what it means. Seok Chul, find everything they have it and remove it, every trace, and then ensure that that house is completely sealed off, discreetly. I want to know about every stranger who appears within a 2-block radius, and prepare everything so that I can resolve this issue with the Southerners. Finally, his voice didn't rise, but every word fell like a steel nail. The business problem was one thing. A threat to the fragile, tender world he'd invited into his life. That was something else entirely, and that was not allowed. Under any circumstances. Carla was heating up dinner when a message popped up on her phone. She swiped her finger almost automatically, expecting an ad or a notification from work, but the sender's name made her freeze. Seok Chul. They hadn't corresponded since that meeting in the cafe. A quiet truce, fragile and new, hung in the air. This message tore it to shreds. She opened it and immediately realized something was wrong. His messages used to be laconic, neutral. This was different. Seok Chul. Carla, pack the essentials. Take Holly and leave town for your family. Now, don't ask questions. This is important. She reread it 3 times. Each word struck her mind like a hammer. Right now, don't ask. This is important. Not please, not sorry. An order, urgent, without explanation, coming from a man who never asked, only stated. Ice ran through her veins. She turned, looking at the door, as if danger was already looming beyond it. Her hands grew cold. He wasn't alarmist. If he wrote like that, it meant the threat was real, serious, near. Snippets of their conversation in the cafe flashed through her mind. I have a difficult job. Things best left undiscussed. His world, dark and unfamiliar, had finally caught up with them, not through gifts, but through that short, terrible line of text. Carla stood in the kitchen, clutching the phone so tightly, her knuckles turned white. Previous fears, about money, about her job, about Holly's health, now seemed petty and insignificant. This fear was of a different order. It was impersonal, absolute. It smelled of strange streets, the panic of flight, the loss of everything she had worked so hard to build. She tore her gaze away from the screen and looked into the living room. Holly was sitting on the carpet. She wasn't playing with the dollhouse. She was quietly talking to a huge polar bear, adjusting the bow around its neck. The lamp illuminated her soft, childlike features, calm and serene. She felt safe, here, in her home, with her mother and the strange, furry guardian who had come out of nowhere. Carla watched her. She imagined herself snatching her daughter from this peaceful scene, shoving her bag into her hands, muttering something about an urgent trip. She would have seen the panic in Holly's eyes, questions she wouldn't have answers to. More flight, more fear, instilled like poison. Her entire life in recent years had been an escape from poverty, from loneliness, from injustice. She fled to this country, fled from bad jobs, fled from the boredom of working without rest. She was tired of feeling cornered, tired of her life being turned upside down by someone from the outside. Anger began to rise within her, warm and furious, displacing the cold paralysis of fear. Anger at Seok Chul, who had brought this threat into their home. Anger at the circumstances. Anger at herself for allowing this to happen. But stronger than anger was another feeling. A stubborn, dumb determination. This was her home. Her fortress. Her daughter laughed here on the carpet. She had done nothing wrong. She hadn't broken anyone else's laws. She was simply living. Carla picked up the phone. Her fingers no longer trembled. They steadily tapped out letters on the glass keyboard. She didn't think about the consequences. She simply answered the truth that screamed within her. Carla. No, she sent that one word. Then she added more, looking at Holly's back. Carla, we're not going anywhere. We haven't done anything wrong. I'm tired of being afraid and running away all the time. She pressed send and set the phone down on the table. Now it was his turn. She had said her no, the first truly firm no in a long time. And, to her surprise, she felt no fear. Only a strange, devastating clarity. She had chosen her rug, her daughter, her fear. She was staying. The message went out. The apartment was silent. Only Holly's quiet, muttering voice addressed to the bear. Carla hugged herself, still feeling the chill from first reading his words. But a small, warm flame of resistance was already flaring inside. Chul's phone lies on the table. He stares at the screen, where Carla's short reply is displayed. He reads it once, then again. His face remains motionless. No, we're not going anywhere. We haven't done anything wrong. I'm tired of being afraid and running away all the time. He's not angry. Instead, something else comes. A clear, cold understanding. He sees her before him, not the frightened woman from the phone conversation, but the one sitting across from him in the cafe. Stubborn, proud, tired. She's spent her life running, and now she's dug in her heels, into her home, into her carpet, where her daughter plays. She's said no to his world, his rules, his protection in the form of escape. He respects this no. He can almost feel her weariness in his bones. Min-ho and Chan stand in front of the desk, awaiting orders. They expect him to pressure them, persuade them, maybe even force them out. Seok Chul slowly raises his head. His eyes meet theirs. They lack the usual icy detachment. A quiet, inexorable fire burns within them. Seok Chul. The plan is changing. He puts the phone aside once and for all. Seok Chul. We're not running away anymore, and we're not hiding the innocent. We're settling all issues here and now. Final. His voice is quiet, but every word is cut like steel. Seok Chul. So that no one else, ever, could even think of disturbing them. So that their address would be erased from the memory of everyone who knew it. So that this house would become the most peaceful place in the city. Do you understand me? Min-ho and Chan nod silently. They understand everything. The scale. The price, the finality. Seok Chul, go ahead, whatever it takes, all the resources. I want a clean slate. He doesn't say thank you or goodbye. He simply gives an order that changes everything, not just for him, for everyone. The next 48 hours pass in a strange, tense rhythm on the city streets. For most residents, nothing changes. Cars move, people rush to work, coffee flows in cafes. But in certain circles, a storm is raging. Quiet, swift, without warning. Quick meetings are held in closed spaces. Some offices are emptied overnight. Several dark SUVs disappear without a trace from their usual routes. Everything happens quietly, without gunfire in the streets, without public scandals. This is not a chaotic war. It is a surgical operation, precise and merciless. Seok Chul doesn't leave his office. He becomes the center of this quiet storm. He issues orders, studies reports, takes calls. He acts not like a disgruntled competitor, but like a force of nature determined to clear the area, once and for all. 2 days later, a short, dry report appears on the local news. The announcer talks about a major police operation to restore order, about the arrest of several individuals linked to illegal activity, and about the end of an era of lawlessness in certain city neighborhoods. Footage of barred office doors is shown, which means nothing to the average viewer. Seok Chul watches the report with a stony face. Then he turns off the TV. The storm is over. He planned it and carried it through. Now the streets are quiet. A week passes. 7 long days of absolute, deafening silence. Carla lives in constant tension. Every rustle in the entryway makes her jump. She checks the lock 3 times before bed. She doesn't let Holly go alone, even into the next room. She keeps looking at her phone. The screen is silent. No calls, no messages. Not from Seok Chul, not from unfamiliar numbers. This silence is worse than any threats. It means nothing. It could mean it's all over, or that trouble is already at the door, just waiting. She finds herself turning on the news, something she rarely did before, and she sees those same reports. Arrests, restorings order, the end of an era of unrest. Her heart pounds wildly. She knows nothing for sure, but her intuition, tempered by years of struggle, whispers that this has something to do with him, with his world, with the warning he sent. She looks at this news and feels not relief, but a chilling horror. What price was paid for this silence? And what will happen to him now? To that strange, lonely man who, for the sake of their peace, what did he do? Her heart tightens with a strange, unwelcome anxiety. Not just for herself and Holly, for him. She's angry at herself for this anxiety, but she can't silence it. He entered their lives like a hurricane and vanished into the silence he created. It's the evening of the 7th day. Holly is already asleep. Carla sits in the kitchen with an unfinished cup of tea, listening to the silence. It's become familiar, almost normal. And then there's a knock. Not a doorbell. A quiet but distinct rap of knuckles on the door. Exactly 3 times. Carla freezes. Blood pounds in her temples. She slowly approaches the door and presses her peephole to the cold glass. He is standing on the platform. Seok Chul. He's alone. He's wearing a dark coat, but it looks rumpled, as if he hasn't taken it off for days. His face, it's not stony. It's tired, very tired. There are dark shadows under his eyes, but there's no worry in those eyes. There's a quiet, bottomless calm and a deep weariness. Carla, without thinking, turns the key and opens the door. She just looks at him. She doesn't say, "Come in." She doesn't say, "What are you doing here?" They stand opposite each other in the doorway. He is the first to break the silence. Seok-chul. Carla. His voice is slightly hoarse, but firm. Seok-chul. It's over. He pauses briefly, looking her straight in the eyes, making sure she understands. Seok-chul. You and Holly are no longer in any danger. Ever. All traces are erased. All issues are resolved. He says this not as bragging, as a report, as a statement of an accomplished fact. Then he adds more quietly, and something new, almost unfamiliar, comes through in his voice. Not an apology, a confession. Seok-chul. Me too. I'm done with my old business, with everything that was. He doesn't enter. He waits for her reaction, standing at the threshold, like a man who has completed a long and difficult journey and is now unsure if there is a place for him at his destination. Carla looks at his tired face, hears his quiet voice, which for the first time sounds without that all-consuming certainty, and everything inside her turns over. The fear recedes. All that remains is a quiet shock, a wrenching understanding of the scale of what he did, and why. Holly emerges from his bedroom, rubbing her eyes. She couldn't sleep. Holly. Mom, I need a drink. She notices a tall figure in the doorway and freezes. The dream immediately evaporates. Her eyes widen. Holly. Oh, it's you, mister from the park. She says this without a trace of fear, with pure, childish joy at recognition. Seok-chul slowly turns to face her. His tired face changes. His stern features soften. The corners of his lips lift slightly, almost imperceptibly. He looks at her, and there's nothing in his gaze but a quiet, almost awkward warmth. Seok-chul. Yes, it's me. Holly comes closer, clutching the hem of her pajamas. She looks from him to her mother. Then she stands on tiptoe and reaches out to whisper in Carla's ear, but her whisper reaches out to the entire hallway. Holly. Mom, is he our secret friend? The one who gave us the house and the teddy bear? Carla looks at her daughter. Then at Seok-chul. He heard. He stands with his eyes downcast, as if preparing for a verdict. Carla takes a deep breath. She places her hand on Holly's head and nods slowly. Briefly. Carla. Yes, honey. It's him. Holly looks at Seok-chul with a new, almost reverent interest, but Carla gestures for her to wait. The girl falls silent, understanding, snuggling closer to her mother's leg. Carla looks straight at Seok-chul. She sees him not as a boss, not as a threat, but as a man who just said he burned all his bridges behind him, for them, for their silence. Seok-chul looks up at her. There's no longer that impenetrable certainty in his eyes. There's a question, and a vague hope. Seok-chul. I would like, if you allow me, to visit you sometimes. He says this very carefully, choosing his words like fragile glass beads. Seok-chul, not as a gift giver, not as a problem, just as a friend, if that's possible. He falls silent, as if he's said too much. The hallway is silent again, but now it's not tense, but frozen in anticipation. Carla feels the last shreds of fear inside her melt under the weight of his fatigue and this awkward, sincere request. He's not demanding. He's asking, for the first time. Carla doesn't answer right away. She looks at Holly, who is eagerly awaiting her decision, then back at him. Carla, we could try. A cup of tea. Now, it's not a yes, it's not a welcome to the family, it's just a cup of tea. But for him, judging by the way his shoulders slump slightly in relief, it means more than any outright agreement. He nods quietly. Seok-chul, thank you. They start with tea, then with occasional visits, once every 2 weeks. Seok-chul always warns in advance. He never shows up empty-handed, but these aren't toys anymore. It's a box of expensive tea, a book of fairy tales for Holly, a pie from the bakery next to his new office. He's selling his old business, all of it. According to Min Ho, who once came by to help Carla fix a faucet and spilled the beans, it was a complex, multi-step operation, but the boss was adamant. Now, Seok-chul has a legitimate company that handles logistics. He's investing in it with the same cold passion he once used to run his own businesses, but now his goal is not control, but creation. He's learning simple things that have always been a mystery to him. Carla watches in amazement as this formidable man, focused and slow, helps Holly arrange a puzzle on the floor. He watches as he tries his first pizza delivery, wrinkles his nose at the abundance of cheese, but then secretly finishes another slice. He watches as he sits on their old sofa, too big and awkward for the small living room, watching a cartoon with Holly, nodding along to the music. Holly adores him. To her, he's Uncle Juice, mysterious, a little silent, but always ready to listen to a story about dollhouse adventures or fix a broken toy car. She tugs at his hand, shows him her drawings, teaches him simple games, and, to his own amazement, he obeys. At first, Carla watches from the sidelines, arms crossed. Each of his visits is an internal struggle between old fear and new timid trust. She watches his eyes, his tone of voice, looking for a catch. But all she sees is the same tiredness, gradually receding, and a wary but sincere desire to be here, not to lead, not to control, just to be. Gradually, She stops hanging around the kitchen door. She sits at the table with them, at first silently. Then she starts asking simple questions. How are things at work? Are you lost in our neighborhood? His answers are always clear, concise, but honest. One evening, when Holly is already asleep and he is about to leave, she stops him at the door. Carla, thank you for not giving up then, and for being like this now. He looks at her, and something like deep, quiet gratitude flashes in his eyes. Seokchul, it's me who should be thanking, both of you. Yuti gave me a starting point. For everything new, he leaves. Carla closes the door and leans against it. She no longer feels the need to check the lock. The fear hasn't completely disappeared, but it has retreated, giving way to a strange, cautious calm. In her life, so complex and lonely, a man has appeared, different from everyone else, with his own difficult history, but he chose them. And they, step by step, learn to accept him. This is a new beginning. Not bright and not loud, but quiet, like a knock on the door late at night, and warm, like a cup of tea in your hands. Their small apartment smells of chocolate, vanilla, and happiness. On the kitchen table, covered with a new polka dot tablecloth, sits a homemade cake. Carla baked it herself. 7 candles are already ready for their moment of glory. The living room is a bustling mess of wrapping paper, bows, and new books. Holly, in a dress she chose herself, sequined and ruffled, flits among the guests. There aren't many guests. Her neighbor Marta, a couple of friends from kindergarten, and him. Seokchul stands by the window, observing the hustle and bustle. He's wearing simple dark trousers and a soft sweater, not a formal coat. He looks ordinary, a little out of place, but no longer an outsider. He holds an envelope, not a box. Carla comes out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. Carla, it's all done. Holly, go make a wish. Everyone gathers around the table. The neighbor turns off the overhead light, leaving only the warm glow of the table lamp and 7 small candles. Holly closes her eyes, takes a deep breath, and blows out all the candles in one fell swoop. The room erupts in applause and laughter. Carla hugs her daughter and kisses her head. Then her gaze meets Seokchul's. He's standing a little further away, but clapping along with everyone else. A rare, undisguised, soft smile on his face. It's time for gifts. Her friends give her markers and a set of bracelets. Martha gives her a beautiful pair of pajamas. Holly thanks everyone, genuinely delighted by every little thing. Then it's his turn. He steps forward and hands Holly not a box, but a plain white envelope. She takes it with interest and opens it. Inside isn't money, but a bright, beautifully designed card with animal prints. Holly, what is this? Seokchul, it's a pass to the zoo for your whole family for a whole year. You can go there whenever you want. Look at the elephants and monkeys, and go to the cafe there too. Holly looks at the map, then at him, her eyes widening. She loves animals. She's been dreaming about going to the zoo all last year. Holly, really? For the whole family? That means Mom and I, and you? Seokchul, if you'll let me join you. He says this, looking at Carla. She smiles and nods. Holly lets out a delighted squeal, rushing to hug first her mother, then, after a moment's hesitation, him. He's a little taken aback by this sudden attack, but he hugs her back gently, patting her back. Holly, thanks, Uncle Juice. This is the best gift. Can we go on Sunday? Is that okay? Everyone laughs. Carla feels a tear roll down her cheek, but she doesn't wipe it away. These are tears of a different kind. She looks at them, at her daughter, beaming with happiness, and at this incredible man, who was once just a voice on the phone, and now stands here in their living room, wearing the silly paper hat Holly put on him. He doesn't give things. He gives experiences, time, attention. He became a part of their lives not because he had to, but because he chose to, and they chose him. Later, after the guests had left, Holly fell asleep, hugging her new sticker album. They were left alone in the kitchen, finishing their tea. It had long since grown dark outside. Carla, thank you for today, and for everything. Seokchul, I have nothing to be thankful for. I'm just grateful. He looks down at his hands, wrapped around the cup. Then he looks up at her. Seokchul, a year ago, I received a call, and I thought it was a mistake, a glitch. Now I realize that it was the only right call of my life. Carla smiles. She takes his cup to wash it. Their fingers lightly touch. Neither one pulls away. Carla, you know, I sometimes think about that too. If Holly had looked at the screen more carefully back then, our life would have been completely different. Poorer. He nods silently. He's not good at using beautiful words, but his presence here, in this tiny kitchen, amid the smell of cake and children's laughter, speaks louder than any words. It all started with a mistaken call, a child's voice that went wrong, but it turned out to be right on target, right in the heart, where one person was missing to complete the picture. For the house to become a fortress, not just an apartment. For the polar bear in the corner of the nursery to be more than just a toy, but a symbol of how sometimes the most incredible things come into life in the strangest ways and stay forever.